Siesta Oat Show. How's everybody doing out there in Fairfield land? Welcome to the land of city business. Michael Halley in the house with the latest haps from City Hall. You can catch after each City Hall the following Tuesday lunchtime, 12:30. Also rebroadcast dinner time Thursday at 6:30 p.m. and the following Monday, 6:30 a.m. So you can do the breakfast, lunch, or dinner routine, staying in touch right here on Solar-Powered KRUU-FM. Also, Fairfield Media Center in the house. Mr. Jason Strong, bringing it strong to y'all on the cable channel. Michael Halley, I'll settle down here. How you doing today?
Good. Glad to be here.
Well, good to see you. I see you have your iPadness in front of you. That means it must be city recap time. What's up?
All right. This is an informal... I say informal. I don't know if there's such a thing as a formal, but it's an informal review of our regular city council meeting from August 24th.
Excellent. 2015.
It was a relatively short agenda. We did have a promotion at our wastewater department. An employee there, let's see if I can get this to open, took a test to get an upgrade in a certain area. Here it is. Lauren Franklin, grade 3 wastewater treatment license.
Third graders are now doing
grade 3.
Oh no, grade 3. You're talking about the license. Sorry.
Yep. So
I'm listening, just not actively.
Yep. So that's a promotion. That was very good. So thumbs up. Good job, Lauren. We moved on. We had no public appearances. We did set a public information meeting. So this is open to everyone. Anybody who's affected by or interested in step 2 of the wastewater upgrades. So that's going to run basically from around the Lamson Woods area up along the northeast part of town. So there are properties along there are affected. Anybody whose property will be affected has already been contacted. So it's not a situation where you may be affected, you just don't know it. You would have received a letter or more than one letters talking about any easements that were needed or any construction that was going to happen in your property along your property.
Okay.
But the meeting it's a Tuesday, September 22nd.
You got to speak right into that microphone.
6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Okay, 6 to 8. And what's the date again?
Tuesday, September 22nd.
All right, September 22nd.
That'll be at City Hall. Next thing we did was we awarded the Jefferson Avenue sidewalk project. This was paid for majority.
The majority?
No, I like that word, major.
I thought you were going to say majoritively.
Yeah, that's it, majoritively.
I don't think that's a word.
The majority of it was paid for by a grant.
By the way, while we're just, the one before, who would show up for that meeting? Anybody who had issues on...
Anybody whose property may be affected by step 2. Like I said, they would have received a letter by now. And so
those would be the folks you'd be expecting might want to have questions or concerns or whatever. Yep. All right, good.
All right, so the Jefferson Avenue sidewalk project. Mm-hmm. Now we got the $25,000 in the grant funds. We had budgeted for about 27, but it looks like it's 28. It looks like it's going to cost closer to 30 just because the bids came in a little higher. And I was talking at the council last night about the importance of any time you apply for a grant that you know where any additional funding is going to come from. If there's a match or if it may cost more because something like a bid came in high. So we had that in this situation. We have a sidewalk fund the city has. So to spend $5,000 but to get $30,000 worth of sidewalk is great. So we're very grateful to have won that grant. So that'll connect 6th Street to 9th Street along Jefferson, along the north side of Jefferson, thus enabling anyone traveling by foot or by bike on the sidewalk from the entire south side of town to then access the recreation complex, indoor, outdoor pool, the new gym, all of that. So that was the idea behind that.
Very cool. Piece. I want to say on a complete corollary, I just happened to have a little lunch over there where the new skate park is. Mm-hmm. Quite impressive. A lot of use, people jumping around. Oh, yeah. It felt really nice over there. So good job on that one. That was a donation a while back, and we're talking about that's over by...
That's O.B. Nelson
O.B. Nelson, right? So not by it is O.B. Nelson, but it's a really sweet feeling over there.
Yeah, thank you for the donor. It wouldn't have happened without that. We next, let's see here. approved this duration of this lease. I talked about this before. I didn't know the name of the group, but it's called the Fairfield Hangar LLC. It's made up of Cambridge and then 2 private jet owners.
And hangar with an AA.
Yep, 2 A's. They house their jets at our airport, and in order to build an additional space, they wanted to extend their lease to know that they had the land. Mm-hmm. So we extended it. I think it's out to 2040, I believe is how far it goes out now. But that's a win-win because we have the space, and that brings in a little bit of income for the airport, and it also has security for the private jet owners. So they will be expanding a new hangar. We'd had a couple of facade improvement easements. So this is a project that the city won up to, I'm going to put it this way, up to $1 million. And that is a matching fund. So up to $1 million in the grant, and then a 50-50 match, so an equal amount match from property owners. And then the city's portion was 10% of the grant, so $100,000 from the city, to total a project for facade restoration on buildings that face Central Park. It doesn't look like that whole $1 million is going to be spent. We had some property owners who either bowed out or didn't want to finance
their part of it,
the full. Maybe did part of what some of the recommendations were.
I see.
So we took 2 of these, and this is just basically a contract. Says, all right, here's the scope, and here's the maximum amount that you'll be charged for the work. And once we have all, I think it's going to be 9. We were aiming for 12, but I think it's 9, 7 or 9 property owners are participating. Once they're all in, then they can, the architect can finalize the plans, and then the contract can be let, and the construction and the renovations will start next year. So we'll know the final numbers when we get full participation, or at least as much participation as we're going to get.
And right now you're saying that's around 7, you think? 7 or 9, somewhere in there?
7 to 9. I know it was fewer than the 12 that we had aimed for, but these things happen.
And how many total storefronts are there?
I don't know.
I
mean, this is just going to be a percentage.
I don't expect you to know everything, but I just was curious. It probably...
Yeah, this is a percentage. It's probably
30 maybe?
25% or so.
Okay.
Maybe. Or less. But as it unfolds and as everyone gets their contract signed, then we'll know more. Is
it time sensitive too? If other people see it and say, "Oh, I'd like," I'm sure.
There's actually times where they can extend, so maybe somebody can jump in a little later. But the way the grant wants it to be done is there's one general contractor for all of it.
Gotcha.
And they might hire subcontractors. So once they really want us to get locked in this fall in terms of who's participating and at what level.
And this is a state grant, right?
I think it was
or federal.
I can't remember.
Oh, well, I just wondered if it was a...
No, it's not federal.
So a state, or it could be a county? No,
it's going to be state.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was CDGB.
And maybe it's the state way of sort of having a certain kind of look or...
Yeah, it's specifically for...
And grants, of course, are like that. Grants have certain things built in, but...
Yeah, it's CDBG.
Okay.
Trying to remember exactly what that stands for.
CDBG. I could make something up in a hurry.
Yeah, you could. Or I could look it up, but...
I'll look it up in a second.
We'll just...
That's fine. It's a state grant. Yep.
Yeah, it's a state grant. I think we've received these in the past as well. All right. While you look that up, we finalized amendments to the Fairfield Commercial, Industrial, Residential, Urban Revitalization area. So we basically took out some limiting wordage that if people were applying for grants, they weren't able to then apply for the city. We thought that was unfair, not conducive. And took out the end date, so it's open until or unless the council changes it. So that passed to its final reading, so it will become law soon.
By the way, it just came to me. Community Development Block Grant.
There you go.
No, it didn't just come to me. I went on the internet.
That's it. Community Development Block Grant.
Have you guys heard of the internet? It's amazing. You just type stuff in.
And those can be for a lot of things, but a lot of times they end up being for housing or property type type upgrades.
So in other words, this is obviously a specifically targeted community development block grant for facade restoration
That's
for
right.
community squares.
Yep.
Cool.
It will not be anything extremely grand or extensive. It's going to be, you're going to see windows getting maybe new paint and trim and that kind of thing. And awnings. It's not going to be like an entire front completely redone. That's not the scope of this particular, because you could easily spend that entire amount if you say redid the entire front of one of these larger buildings. The mayor was not present, but in his report we're setting a special council meeting for Monday, September 21st at 7 p.m. at City Hall. So that's between our 2 September council meetings. So we'll have a council meeting on the 14th, this meeting on 21st, and another council meeting on the 28th. This one is specifically for inviting our, what's he called, our municipal finance officer, but he's our consultant, Travis Squires from Piper Jaffray. He's been working with the city for at least 2 years now.
Okay.
So he will come and talk about that recent bond downgrading from spring and give his professional advice and assessment on how to make changes that I know we're already in the process. But again, he spells it out very clearly. If you shore up this account and if you et cetera, he'll have a plan that's open to the public. We invite anybody who's interested in city finance. I know people talk about it.
Yep.
Well, this is a chance to come and ask.
And this will be a special meeting. September 21st.
Just for this purpose. 7
p.m.
Yep.
Really, I'm just going to throw this out there. Yeah, if you are interested, you're concerned about how money spent, what it means. I mean, that was a cover story, Fairfield Ledger, some weeks ago about the Moody downgrade. We know the economics in the world, the wealth, very volatile at the moment anyway, as we're speaking with the stock markets and whatnot. This is our town's finances and economic overview and a chance to see and ask questions as well.
Yep.
So it's an open meeting. A presentation will be given. So it's a good point you're making. If you're concerned about this, always good to be at the point when people are talking about it rather than just the whatever is the outgrowth later.
Yeah.
So interesting. I'm glad you said that.
Well, I've noticed that over the years we changed. We took a day of the open burning out. No one made a peep for the 3 readings, 2 weeks between each reading. It was publicized. It was posted online. It was talked about in the paper. And then after the fact, I got 2 messages saying, "What'd you do that for?" I think, well, where were you during the due process? Where were you when this was being discussed? So council chambers are often rather empty during our meetings, unless somebody's there for a specific purpose. It's a few department heads and our city attorney and a few people who have some reason to be there, reporters. Very, very few people attend. And then yet, you hear every conspiracy theory in the book of why something is a certain way when they could be found out if you simply go to the source. The
thing is, there's a part of us that hope things just go the way we want them to. We're used to them being a certain status quo. And when something changes, then what's going on, paying attention, sometimes we don't do till something impacts us directly, right? And I love this point that if you are interested in these kinds of things, staying current with them and also having input before they're to the point where they've already been decided. And then you feel like you're caught and you didn't have a voice. You didn't get to say what you want. But how we pay attention? Well, listening to shows like this, going to Fairfield Media Center, checking that out, going to City Council, obviously the Ledger reports and KMCD and others. It's an interesting one, isn't it? So this one in particular is an interesting subject, there are many more. But I mean, this one in particular is an opportunity for that particular thing. How we spend our money, what it means. It's an overview. It's an overall thing. He will give information why it got to where it is, what's happening now. You've talked about it before. I don't know, just a good opportunity.
Yeah,
so thanks.
I hope to see people there. All right, our city attorney showed that the final paperwork for the sale of Logan has went through. We sold it, but this was like the last bit of the piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
So that's done. We did talk about it.
By the way, sorry to interrupt, but anybody who's done any of these things, final is
exactly.
Hopefully it's final, not final.
He really promises this time. We're also looking into selling the property. I think it's 123 South 23rd. It was that donated property the city received as a gift years ago
for the electronics.
And then Midwest Recycling had an agreement with the city. Then they faulted on that. So now another local startup, small manufacturing, I can't get into too much detail, but
wow,
kind of interesting company wants to use it, and the city will have to do the same agreement because by law we cannot sell a property to a for-profit business less than its assessed or less than its appraised value.
Mm-hmm.
But no one is going to pay the appraised value. We don't really understand how the appraisal even came in that high. So what you do is you make a formal agreement where the sale of the property is contingent on, and then there have to be benefits to the community, certain jobs created, certain upgrades to the property, and it appears they're on board. So we had to pass just a resolution saying we'll have a public hearing at our next meeting, which will be September 14th, regarding this so that we can move forward because they have orders to fulfill and they need to get this space running.
Did the other group falter because they weren't able to fulfill those requirements?
Yep. They did not produce the jobs they said.
Okay,
they did not improve the building the way they said, not said, but signed.
Mm-hmm.
And after the lease was up, it was clear that they didn't uphold their side. They knew that, so they stepped out without any issue.
By the way, you're listening to City Business. This is James Moore at solar-powered KRUU-FM 100.1 on your FM dial, KRUU-FM.com, and the World Wide Web machine. Michael Halley, 4th City Council person, gracious enough to come in and fill us in on what happened. I heard it was a relatively short meeting.
Mm-hmm. 1 hour, which is
that's
not as short, but a couple other things we did. This was one thing that made it a little longer, was our annual library report.
Okay.
It was actually very interesting to see that the library is well maintained and they keep their circulation.
Solar-powered library, by the way.
That's right. I talked to the director about potential interest in expanding said solar array, and it could be done. They have a couple different unique funding sources. They have their own endowment, but the endowment is only for the collection, not for anything else.
For books.
So that can't be touched. But they have a foundation, and the foundation helps with upkeep of the building, et cetera.
Cool.
So I'd like to see solar company make a pitch for expanding that array. I think that it could really benefit them. Currently, they're saving about $2,500 a year, and it's a relatively small array with a lot more potential. They have a lot of good solar
exposure
on that roof.
Possibly,
yeah. Very, very good exposure on that roof. We had our project update from city engineer Melanie Wells. Melanie Wells? That's not right.
I don't think that's right.
Thank you. Melanie Carlson.
Melanie Carlson. I know Melanie Wells.
I know Melanie. I know both Melanies. All right. So the rain has backed off enough that O.B. Nelson basketball court was poured, the entire thing. Another donated amenity. Thank you.
Slam dunk, baby.
Yep. And the new indoor gym, if you've gone by the site, you see all these large metal structures going up. So they're getting that built. But there was a really strange and unfortunate situation with the contractor who's working on Highland Avenue. So it's drier now, and they could come in and do it. But it was a father-son business, and I didn't catch it was the father or the son, but one of them passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear.
Yeah, in late August. So there's a little bit of delay. It's just such a strange project. First delayed by rain, and now this, but it will get done this fall. We're pretty confident of that. This is some really good news. I remember those grants I told you, that grant we applied for.
A big one, right?
Yeah. So the city, step 1 of the wastewater conveyance system upgrades, that's the lines that go to the plant, is about a $7 million project. And we were going to just take out loans for it. But then we found out the USDA contacted and said, you are eligible now for grants, so please apply. We applied, and we got $2.6 million.
Fantastic.
Just for step 1. So 2.6 of 7. The difference is that they require us to borrow the remainder from them. We were a little concerned the interest rate might be higher than what we were going to borrow from the State Revolving Fund, SRF. It is marginally higher. Instead of 2, it's 2.11, I think. So we feel good about that. The only...
Is that fixed or?
Yeah. And the only downside is that with the SRF borrowing that we were going to do, they had this program where instead of paying interest, they let you use those funds for water quality improvement. It's called sponsored projects. So we had $2 million in sponsored projects, all sorts of, permeable paving parking lot for the north side of the gym, and some Crow Creek stabilization along the trail, and et cetera, et cetera. That money's probably not going to be there, because if we borrowed for step 1 from USDA instead of SRF, then we're not going to borrow from SRF. We also applied for a separate grant for the plant upgrades. I think that's about $6 million. So that's for the upgrades at the actual plant. And then we're going to apply for step 2 of the conveyance come up in October when the new funding starts. So we're going to continue to apply for these grants, because if we get these grants, that's that much less that we have to borrow. That's that much less that everyone has to pay
just
back.
To be clear, I mean, going with this grant that requires you to borrow from them means you're getting all that money. So what you're losing for the other one, that's what the juggle is.
Yeah. So if we got 2.6 to start, basically same interest rate, and we're not even losing, but the $2 million was going to be what would have been paid back in interest. So at this point, it's almost about a wash. But
sorry, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not, we're talking money to what would be paid back being applied to something else, which is in effect money, but it's not.
It's kind of money, but it's only in regard to borrowing quite a large amount of money. So the idea is, well, if we were eligible for this and won it, that means we're eligible for all the other projects, and we're hopeful that each one will receive some grant funding as well. So this could be a huge benefit to this project and help minimize future increases in the wastewater portion of your utility bill. Because if we're on a schedule that included no grants, and now we're getting grants, that schedule is going to change. We likely won't need to follow it through to its completion.
Great.
But we're losing some of these sponsored projects, such as that parking lot, and now the question is, well, where's that funding going to come for that? So I say overall, it's excellent news that we got $2.6 million towards at least just even the beginning of this project.
But I do want people for any nonprofit and other groups, it's always when you're getting grants, they're good, and they're always just a little bit. It takes more than just like, oh, that's perfect. You're weighing it against other possibilities, what it means, what the grant has built in its agenda. And so it's who wouldn't just take that? This is that's why we love to do city business. You kind of learn how it works and how that. And
to remind you, we had to spend $100,000 for further studies just to be eligible for the grant. So we took that chance. We paid off many-fold. Spending $100,000 and getting $2.6 million is it's good return. That's a good return. All right, the Aquatic Center will be closed for maintenance September 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Okay.
That's going to be the inside, because the outside pool is closing. Coming up, this is its last week of operation. If you're listening on August 25th, it will be open. The slide may not be open every day this week because lifeguards are going back to college and they're short-staffed. But the weekend of the 29th and 30th is the big last hurrah. It's only $2 to get in the pool. Woo-hoo. The slide will be open. The concessions will be discounted. KRUU's sister radio station over across the way, KMCD, will be playing some tunes.
Excellent.
So it'll be a fun time, and I think the weather's going to warm up into the 80s by then. So one last hurrah. Then after that, it's doggy swim day. It's very popular in many pools when they're shut down to humans. They invite the dogs in for a day.
And then, of course, who let the dogs in? Who?
And on that note,
that'll do it, folks. We're out here. Siesta, take us away. Calgon, where are you? There's a reference that you young folks won't know. This is James Moore with Michael Halley and Jason Strong, coming to you strong from F-Town's Cultural District. Don't do anything you wouldn't do, and remember, The weather's your friend.